we're going to get started. So again, thank you everybody for joining today. Hopefully you find today riveting and exciting. We're really excited. I'm really excited what we have lined up for you today. We think we're showing off some really great stuff that many of you haven't seen before. And hopefully you're going to leave today being like, yes, just some really great stuff. So first up, we're going to do a quick introduction. The team that you're going to hear from today, we're going to do a little introduction of ebankIT. If you don't know much about us yet, we'll keep it quick. From there, we're going to jump right into live demos. So this is all going to be live. Knock on the proverbial wood here. We're going to do a demo of our low-code innovation capabilities, so the ability to go in there and create something really quick for web banking. We're going to follow that really shortly with our fast native code generation, so the ability to create the experience really, really quickly for native devices. Mixed in there, and also a bit at the end, we're going to show you a little bit of artificial intelligence that we've been exploring and how that really plays into the developer experience and the focus we have on ensuring that not only do we have an amazing digital platform, but the developers that are extending the platform also have a really great experience and are able to do so quickly and easily. And then we'll come back into a couple closing slides at the end of the demos. So the folks that you have speaking today and part of the webinar is you have Pedro Esvedo, our Chief Product Officer. Pedro, just say hi so people know your voice.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Great. And we have Jose, one of our sales engineers. Jose, go ahead and say hi.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all.
And you have myself, Dan Killy, the VP of Customer Engagement. So I'm joined by two of my colleagues out of Porto, Portugal, and I'm out of Vancouver, Canada. So we've got a little bit of our wider global team here today to speak to you. So first up, a little bit of an overview of ebankIT if you don't know who we are. So we do provide a powerful platform that enables you, a financial institution, to deliver some amazing digital experiences that they're humanized, personalized, accessible. We do that across all the digital channels. With our platform, we've had many of our customers achieve awards for the experiences that they're able to bring forth through our platform. We're in 12 countries. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary a few weeks ago in Porto, Portugal. We have some staff that have been here for a full 10 years. We're also a partner that has received awards from our customers. So just, again, a few weeks ago, received another award for 2023, being an amazing partner for one of our customers. So when you look at who we are and what we want to deliver, we really want to be a platform that you can give and offer your customers or members some very amazing experiences. We also want to be a partner that you love working with, that you give us praise, because we are doing great things. And so when you look at the market, three of our pillars are, again, create an engaging digital experience, but also be able to easily craft new experiences if we don't have the experience you want, and do all of that quickly. So we have some really great experience with projects that have gone to market really, really quickly, and then ongoing that you can produce results and produce new experiences very, very quickly, which is really what the focus is going to be on today. When you look at where we fit in the market, you've got financial institutions that are going to build their own digital experience, do all of that in-house with their own capabilities, but that can be rather expensive and it can be slow to innovate. You've got to build all those capabilities yourself. We also have many customers who buy. That could be your lowest cost, but innovation is also restricted. You're generally restricted to the innovation that particular provider is giving you. If you want to do something different, you want to do it quickly, you may be restricted on that. There's also buy scenarios where they'll add on that capability to innovate, but they're adding it on to a product that was really meant to buy. Here at ebankIT, the core of our platform from day one was your ability to innovate. Yes, we have some great experiences that you can have out of the box, and we have those, but the platform was built to be in that middle where you've got a mixture of experiences that we provide, but we absolutely have core capabilities for you to be able to build your own. And so we believe that that's the best place to be in the market, both the ability to build off existing experiences and to be able to focus on differentiate and build your own experiences. And then that together really gives that best chance for success and maximize growth. For today's demo, we're going to focus on this use case here. The use case where you want to easily craft your own experience on the platform. That experience could be about ESG. It could be bringing in an aspect of gamification. It could be bringing in a concierge. It could just be bringing in an experience that you want to digitize. The one we've chosen today is a mortgage prepayment. So for those of you that are maybe not Canadian, maybe don't have the same experience in the region you're in, here a financial institution wishes to further the digital transformation. They want to empower the consumers or members to make ad hoc prepayments to their mortgage, and they want to do that via the self-service channels. In this particular case, the financial institution doesn't have the APIs available today for real-time prepayment and all the nuances that can happen in this particular use case via their core banking system. So they really want the staff member to shepherd the process, to go in and make sure what that consumer is doing is not going to leave the consumer in a bad financial spot. And that if you overpay your mortgage, you can get really dinged, and it can really leave your mortgage in an interesting spot. So they really wanted to go to a person who could just triple check that what that person, what the consumer is asking to do is not going to leave them in more harm than good. And I couldn't have set this up if I wanted to. But just literally 24 hours ago, I saw a comment come in on the social media of one of our customers, and it was so timely that I thought I would include it on here. And I'm going to include the entire quote. So yesterday was with a customer launching our platform, and one of the first 50 comments on social media from their consumer base was this particular comment. I personally like the new app. I'm wondering though, for those of us with a mortgage with you, is there any talk about adding an area or a way where we could put extra money onto our mortgage through the app? It would be so much easier if we could pay here and there towards our principal online. And I thought, wow, in 24 hours, I'm literally talking about this particular topic. So it was great to see that consumers are asking for this type of experience. So today, let's go ahead and have a look at how easy it would be to produce this particular experience. I'm going to hand it over to Pedro now. He's going to talk a little bit more about what we're going to be seeing from here on forward.
Thank you, Dan. So I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Studio just before you see it in action. ebankIT Studio really plays a crucial role as an enabler of differentiation and innovation for financial institutions that use the ebankIT platform. And I'd like to emphasize that really Studio is not your run-of-the-mill local tool because it leverages the digital banking concepts and the functionality that is inherent to the ebankIT platform itself. So using Studio, you will be able to not only initialize your ebankIT solution, do it for all of your channels, including self-service and staff channels, but also extend the solution through the creation of what we call new transaction orchestrations or transaction flows. In other words, these are data flows that will take user input through the platform and all the way to a third-party system such as your core bank. You'll also be able to manage your own implementation-specific APIs at project level with Studio, benefiting from our modular service architecture and doing domain-driven development as well. And this enables you to build reusable transaction modules with Studio within your middleware, which you can then implement for each device in true omni-channel manner. Studio helps you along with all this throughout this journey. And then when the time comes and you are live, and at some point there is a new version of the ebankIT platform, Studio will also help you with installing platform upgrades, because you won't want to miss out on the features that we regularly release as part of the platform. Now, as far as local tools, And it has to be said that it is not uncommon for developers to sometimes have some reservations about using this type of tool. And perhaps this is because they might feel it could limit their opportunities to use the advanced coding skills that they possess, or potentially take away some control over the final result, or end up being somewhat restrictive in terms of their ability to meet requirements. But we feel that with ebankIT Studio, the code that it generates for you and what it gives you is not just robust code that is readable by humans. It is also code that you can view and modify using your favorite native IDEs, whether for Microsoft.NET, for Swift for iOS, or Kotlin for Android. And this means that developers with all different levels of coding skill can be even more productive within the ebankIT platform without ever feeling restricted or losing that control that I mentioned. And also one key aspect of Studio that I mentioned right at the beginning, and one that I would like to emphasize really, is that it's not just a generic local tool that produces this code. So let's see what that means in a little bit more detail in the next slide. So here you can see highlighted in our platform diagram what we call the business layer, which includes a collection of banking services that really drive the platform. And these digital banking services, they range from security rules for accessing your contract and managing your transaction limits, entitlements, authentication, authorization, personalization, your operation history, the ability to send notifications, to manage workflow processes, to manage document templates, and so much more. Why is this relevant? Because all of the code that ebankIT Studio generates is already tightly woven into these underlying business modules, such that it essentially helps you by doing all that heavy lifting for you of what constitutes a digital banking platform. So in other words, this is code that really stands on the shoulders of an already powerful digital banking platform. And as the platform itself evolves, so too does ebankIT Studio. We have added many developer-friendly tools and features to ebankIT Studio recently. But it has to be said, we couldn't really ignore the topic that has been on everyone's minds lately, and increasingly so. And therefore, as a final note, I will just say that this year, one of our work streams in ebankIT Studio is focused on how we can use AI services to even improve developer experience, increase efficiency for developers even further. So yeah, stay tuned for news on that front. We're all quite excited about things, and also to find out how we can help you reach a next level digital banking experience with ebankIT. Back to you, Dan.
Thank you. So just before we jump into the demo, let's go over real quick what we're going to see and some of the tools we're going to be jumping between. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to design and build our experience. We will be using the ebankIT Studio, and then we'll be using Visual Studio. From there, we need to do a little bit of configuring for our experience before we can try it in action. After we configure it, we're going to try our experience. We're going to go into the ebankIT desktop platform and actually see the transaction that we're building today, see the experience, and see what it looks like in just a few of what we've been able to produce with just a few minutes of work. From there, we're going to go into our staff-facing tool, the branch front office, where we're going to receive that transaction, that mortgage prepayment that we just received, and see what a staff member would see and be able to service that request. We're going to be doing all that on desktop, and then we will pivot over to the mobile. So from there, we will design the experience for mobile, for Android. We will be using the ebankIT Studio and Visual Studio to then build out the platform. From there, we'll pivot over to Android Studio, where we'll build the app. We're also going to then explore some of the artificial intelligence and the developer experience that we have in there. I'm going to keep that a little bit for a surprise. And then we'll go in and actually try the experience on the mobile platform that we've been able to produce. And then finally, last but not least, we'll also be showing off some additional AI and more of the developer experience of what we've been crafting and where we're going in the future. So from here, I'm going to have Jose start sharing his screen, and he's going to do all the clicking while I describe what will be happening. Jose, please get us started. I'm going to take us off camera so you can focus completely on what's happening on the screen. Great. So here we have the ebankIT Studio. The first thing we can see, this is our standard dashboard that you see when going into ebankIT Studio. And we can see that for this particular institution or customer, they have 4 different brands that they're able to manage. They're able to see which of the brands have which of our major modules installed. From here, we're going to do a quick overview of Studio, but not go into it in any real depth, just a very, very highlight reel. So let's go ahead and quickly look at our first area, apps and modules. So this provides us the ability to manage the different modules that are installed by channel. So here we can see Android, we can see the different modules that we have installed. For today, we've installed basically almost everything. We can go over and we can see internet banking. We can see that we have a bunch of other optional modules for it. If we were on iOS, the iOS tab would be clickable for us, but today we're going to focus on Android. But if we were on a Mac, that iOS tab would come up. From here, let's go ahead and look at the plugins area. So here we can look at different extensions for the actual ebankIT Studio itself. We have 3 plugins that are installed today. We're going to be going into each of these because these are each driven by AI. So we're going to be going into each of these a little bit later in the demo. So I'm not going to talk about these different plugins, but you are getting a sneak peek of what you're about to see a little bit later today. Next, go over to APIs. So APIs is really where we're going to register a business API that we want to make available to a user experience that we're going to craft. So here, Jose's going to create an API for us that we can use later in the demo. And of course, today we've talked about we're going to make mortgage prepayments. So we're going to call this the mortgage API. And so now we're registering that API so that we can start creating a user experience and come back later and we can fill out that API as needed. And here we get our first sneak peek of our lovely little robot. He's creating things, and if you've been in here a little while, he's a cute little addition to it. So we've created the API. Now we need to go ahead and build our transaction or our experience. So we're going to go ahead over to the transactions tab. So here we've already got 2 existing transactions or extensions that we've created. So we've created an international wire and a national wire user experience, but we're going to go ahead and create our 3rd extension to the platform. Let's go ahead and create that transaction now. So here we're going to give it a meaningful name. We also down below get to choose all of some of those core platform capabilities that we want to make available to this particular transaction. So for example, favorites. If you're aware of our platform, people can favorite a transaction and do it many, many times. So perhaps for mortgage prepayment, I'm going to just save it that I'm going to add $1,000, and every 2 or 3 months, I'm going to put in that $1,000. I can also put down below that we want to allow the consumer to have a PDF download or an email download or be able to print it. And so these are the core capabilities. We go ahead and select the ones we want, and we're going to go next. From here, we're going to add the labels or the fields that are really going to be important for this particular transaction. So for this transaction, we're going to want to know the source account that we want to pay the mortgage from. So probably a checking or a savings account that the consumer would choose. We're going to want to choose the destination account or the destination mortgage that we want to pay. Perhaps a person has multiple mortgages, both their primary residence, a rental property, or a vacation property. We also are going to want to know how much do they want to pay down. So we're going to want to grab an amount from them. We also are a multi-currency platform, and so you may also support multiple currencies. So here we're going to want to make sure that the currency of that payment is well understood to make sure if we're paying from, say, a US account to a Canadian mortgage, that could create some interesting experiences as well. We also want to gather some recent contact information. So we're just going to get their current phone number from them and a current email address, just in case we want to call them and the contact information on file isn't quite up to date, or they're in a different location right now and they'd rather us call them on a different number. So these are just the fields that we want to get from this transaction. Let's go ahead and click on next. From here, we get to see a visual representation of how that transaction is going to flow. And down here, we've got different things like validating the input that they've come in with, and having it come down doesn't need to go to authorization. It goes to execution, to receipt. All of these are the default flows that are available. And you could choose at this point to click on one of them and override it. On the customer input, we know that we want it to automatically fill in the banking accounts for us. So we're going to go in here and edit and say, yes, make this one the checking accounts, have it fill in that this is the banking accounts that are available. Great. So we could have overridden some of the other steps if we wanted to override the confirmation step or the simulation, which is a pre-check. We could have gone in there and done all of that. But for today, we don't need any of that for this transaction. So we'd like all the defaults. Let's go ahead and go next. From here, this is now where we connect in that user experience and say, great, where should this experience go to? What business API do you want it to be connected to? So we're going to go ahead and connect it up to that mortgage API that we created earlier. So here, predictive text, we find the API we want and go ahead and connect it in. Down below, we also have the messages that go out for one-time passcodes. And so here we could play with that template and change it up. If mortgage prepayment wasn't what we want to describe when it comes over via text, we could do something else, but we like the default one here. So we're going to go ahead and just create transaction. Another wonderful Zen moment while we wait to create the transaction. It's pretty darn quick. Excellent. So the transaction's been created. Now let's go ahead and set up our user experience, the front end. So today, right now, we're going to focus on the web, the internet banking. So let's go ahead and focus on the experience for web banking. Go ahead and set it up. So here now we get that visual view of all the elements that are going to be on the screen. So not necessarily does all of the fields that we defined earlier do we want on the screen, but in this particular experience we do. So let's go ahead and create that product selector so that we know we want to select the banking product that we're going to pay from. We also are going to then do another product selector to do where we want to pay, which mortgage we want to pay to. And then we talked about we need to know how much we want to, and there Jose was playing, you can drag and drop and move things around if you want to change the order. Here we want to do an input and to know the amount. And of course, we want to have the currency of that amount also recorded at the time. And that's a combo control. So we're not going to have two different fields for that. It's nicely done in one. So let's go ahead and do that. We're also going to grab the email address and phone number. You can see this can all be very, very quickly. If you want to drag and drop around the order, you can do all of that. There's a bunch of other options that we can get into. We're really going to show you today what that default user experience looks like when you don't get into all the options and say you want to override, say, some of the style sheet, or you want to get really fancy on the user experience. What could just that out-of-the-box user experience looks like? So these are all the fields we need. So we're going to go ahead and click on Save. Now we're going to generate that transaction. It's ready to go. Let's have it generate the transaction for us, the experience for us. Great. So now we've created the transaction, the experience, but we need it to be accessible by our consumers. So we need to define it in the menu and get people to be able to find it somewhere. So let's go ahead and create a menu item for it. We have two different areas. We've got a main menu and a drawer menu. Today, we're going to talk about the main menu. So let's go ahead and open the main menu. This is where you see a lot of your typical transactions. So we've got our products, our move money, our activity. So this is a move money feature. So let's go ahead and add it under move money under transfers. We give it a name. We give it the name in the different languages that we have. And go ahead and add it. And then we need to go and link it up to the transaction, the experience that we just crafted. Fantastic. We could drag it down a little bit lower. It's not the most frequently used one, so we don't want it at the top. Let's go ahead and save our menu. Now, this is a bit of a moment to understand how ebankIT Studio interacts with your IDE, in this particular case for today, Visual Studio. So we've created the definitions for the menu. We're going to export it now, and that really then makes it available to the larger solution. So we've exported it. So we've exported the menu. Now we need to do the same process for the transaction. So we take it out of Studio and say, great, it's now ready. Can I bring that over into this version of ebankIT, my source control inside of Studio? And from there, you can then extend it and do all sorts of fun things with it. So we've done all of that. Now we really get to jump over to the next step, which is going over to Video Studio. So this is the first time that we're starting out Visual Studio for today. So it is going to take a little moment to initialize and get started. But we're really wanted to make sure today that you have the highest confidence that we have not pre-prepped any of this. This really is real time. And this is exactly how long it takes. So there are a few dead moments today. I'll give this moment to shout out to Jose. So thank you for doing all the clicking and being the developer on the experience today. So we're loading our project, and this step is where we really need to build the platform. So we're going to go in, take all the new code that's been generated for us, and build a working platform. Great, we have the project loaded. So now we're going to go ahead and build and run the application. So after this, the next step we're going to see is we're going to go into the ebankIT Management Studio, or EMS for short. This is where your staff members, be that a BA, be that a DevOps person, they can go in and really play and alter a lot of the configurations that are available for your particular instance or the platform. And so it's there where we're going to log in next. We've created the transaction, we've created our API, we've created the experience. We now need to go in and just do a couple little configurations for it. And then it will be ready to use. Wait for that just to start up a little bit. We're going to see the login process in just a minute. Of course, that is federated to your staff credentials. So you tie that into your Active Directory or whatnot, and staff can reuse their credentials. It also has the ability to have multiple roles. So during that login process, you'll see that Jose could choose from a couple different roles. You may have a super administrator and or staff members with some limited capabilities. For today's demo, we're not going to really go into the EMS at all. We're going to just jump right in. Our tool also is bilingual, so if your staff members do speak French and would prefer to have French and you need to support that from your staff, you can also have this tool in French as well. Or any other language. We have a global audience today, could be any language. And this is everything you've seen here today is vanilla, what you would get on day one if you were starting a project from ebankIT. We've not gone in and set anything up per se. The only thing we did was I did rename a few items just to make them a little more for this particular audience, but it's out of the box is what you're seeing today. So this is the ebankIT Management Studio. We're going to just jump right into a settings area and go into transactions and management. We're going to find that transaction that we just set up, that mortgage transaction. So we know we just added it, so it's at the very end. So Jose just jumped to the end. We're going to go ahead and edit it. From here, we're going to click on channels. We're going to click on editing it on the desktop first. From here, we've got this ability to send to workflow, and that's sending it to a staff workflow. So we're going to go ahead and enable that. And that's that part of this transaction where we said we want staff members to go in and be involved in this one and not automatically just get executed. We don't have necessarily the APIs that handle all the error scenarios. This is an optional one. You wouldn't necessarily enable this for everybody. And because this particular transaction isn't risky, we're going to go ahead and turn off the OTP. So it doesn't require any validation. We're now going to do the same thing for mobile. We could have different settings on one versus another, but again, it's not risky. You're still keeping the money within that same consumer's account. So let's go ahead and save that. And that's all of the configuration we need to do. We now get to go and try our transaction and see what it looks like with, it's been what, about 20 minutes or so, I think, since we got, or less since we got to this part of the, to the webinar. So let's go ahead and see what kind of experience we've been able to create in just 20 minutes. So now we're going to log into a standard vanilla ebankIT desktop implementation. So this is our NXP platform. This is what you would get on day one. Of course, it needs a little moment to warm up. It's the first time hitting the server. All part of, hopefully today, if you've joined a developer webinar before, you know the developer experience isn't exactly lightning quick. There, this is the heavy lifting, so some of the stuff does take a little bit of time. Here's a login page, completely changeable by you. We're going to log in. We won't spend time today kind of going over what this experience is. We're really today to talk about that development experience than the platform itself. But we're going to go ahead and join in. This is our typical dashboard you're going to see in a moment, highly tailorable by you. You can create all sorts of extensions on this page should you want to. Great. So we're going to go up to Move Money. So we click on Move Money, and sure enough, at the top here, we have this slightly ugly menu item because we haven't added anything yet to the translations to what this should be called. Let's just see what we've got within 20 minutes of creation. Go ahead and click on that. So here's the user experience we've created so far. So yes, it does need some labels to be filled out, but we've got the source account selector there. Let's go ahead and select the source account. We've got the destination account. Now we haven't added any filtering yet to say, hey, only have the mortgage accounts display. But go ahead and select a destination account. And here we've got that combo of both the currency and the amount. So we'll go ahead and fill in an amount that we want to prepay our mortgage. We're going to go ahead and add some contact information. We'll click on continue. We get a standard confirmation page. So again, if we didn't like the confirmation page, we could have overridden it. But here, this confirmation page is more than what we would like for this particular transaction. Let's go ahead and click continue. This is confirming and advising the consumer, the member, that we don't need to do an OTP for this particular step. We would have seen the OTP if we had it enabled, but for brevity today, and it's not a high-risk transaction, we're just going to click continue. We don't need to do any extra validation. And great. We've now, the transaction is now complete. This is the receipt page. It's advising them that it's been registered. It's awaiting handling. So it hasn't been done in real time. It is going to a staff member. But I can see here, I can export it to a PDF down below, print it or email. Those are all options we selected in there. So we've now created the experience. We've configured the experience. Now and we've actually performed the experience. You've seen what it looks like with just 20 minutes of crafting it. Now let's go ahead and see an action from a staff member perspective. So we're logging into what we call the branch front office, or BFO. Again, can all be tied into your corporate identity, so your staff members are able to single sign on in and get in here quickly. We're going to log in and see what a staff member would look like, and see how this new transaction would look like, and how quickly we could have it available to a customer service representative. So in our world, these are called processes. So we have this area where requests from your consumers would come in, and we have these open processes or close, or the activities dashboard. So let's go ahead and go to the activities dashboard. We can see that there's some that are already sort of assigned to me, or ones that are pending and available for all staff members to action. So we can see here that John Snow just submitted one, and it's been unassigned. No one's assigned to action it. Let's go ahead and view more. And we want to go ahead and handle it ourselves. So as that staff member, I'm going to handle this. We can see here that it's come in. There's some SLA information. We're not going to go into what all the capabilities of BFO, but you can see here, we'll scroll back up just a little bit here for me, Jose. You can see here that it's a mortgage prepayment. Here's the source account, the destination, the amount, the contact information. And so from here, in this particular use case, my core banking system cannot action this directly. I don't have the APIs. Maybe my core banking system that team is flooded. They can't give me the APIs for it to do it in real time, or the rules are just too complex. So this particular branch staff member is now going to pivot over into their CSR tool for their core banking. They're going to make the payment, and then they're going to come back in here and be like, yeah, that payment was all successful. You didn't get into anything crazy. And they're going to close it as executed. And that's it. So within that amount of time, I now have a digital experience. Yes, we need to go in and add some translations, so it's not completely done. But defining the translations is really just a few more minutes of time here. And from here, we're going to pivot into, while I'm speaking, Jose's going to pivot over into the next and just get prepped for the next spot while I recap what we saw here. So we've crafted the experience. We built it. We deployed it. We configured it. We got to experience what that default user experience would look like. We could absolutely spend more time on that experience. We could spend more time moving around the buttons, putting some more side by side. But for something like a mortgage prepayment, that was a pretty good user experience that would need to be there. It's not necessarily a high usage one where we want to really get it tighter on the screen. There wasn't a lot of fields. So we could probably just go to production with an experience like that. We already have it going over to staff members to be handled. We didn't necessarily need to engage our core banking team. So what I really see here is really that first stage of digitization of a process from that consumer perspective. Yes, it's stale manual, and staff members are handling it in the back office, but we've gone a long ways. We have countless FIs that said if they had that ability to kind of create digital processes that quickly during, for example, COVID, holy, that would have been a lifesaver for them to be able to put a user experience that quickly into production. So now we're going to pivot over to mobile and our ability to create native mobile experiences. So we're going to go back into the same transaction we built earlier. So we're going to now go into the front end of that transaction. And we saw earlier that there was internet banking or Android. We're now going to go into the Android part. And we're going to set up that input page. So this looks a lot like we saw on desktop. So Jose's just going to quickly go ahead and add our product selector where we're going to choose the source account. But let's make this experience a little bit different. On the destination account, on mobile, we don't want to have a product selector. We're going to take a picker view. So he's going to go and add a picker control instead, and that's going to be our destination account. So we'll make this user experience just a little bit different, given that it's mobile, and mobile it's a different screen layout, so it does need a slightly different user experience sometimes. We're going to go ahead and he's going to add all the other items that we needed on here, the amount and all of that stuff. Very similar to what we saw on desktop. And we're doing this all for a native mobile experience. So this is going to be very snappy, very responsive to the consumer, and exactly what we'd want our consumers to be experiencing. Versus, this is not a web view or something that is a little bit less responsive. Great, we've got everything, so we're going to save it. We need to do the same step we needed to do on desktop. We need to generate the transaction. We need to create a menu item. So our Android menu system could be completely different than desktop. We may want to have things laid out a little bit differently. So we're going to go ahead and do the same things we did for the menu and add a menu item here for our mortgage prepayment. And define the label of the different languages we have. For this one, we have English and Portuguese set up. We will talk about some additional language in just a few moments once we've seen this experience in action. Move it around. Where do we want it in the menu? Save it. And of course, just like on desktop, we're going to export this out to our IDE to Visual Studio. We've done that. And now we're going to go over to Visual Studio. So we still need to run the actual server itself, the platform. So we're going to go ahead and rebuild the platform, the server-side component of this in Visual Studio. Takes just a few moments to do this part. And then we're going to jump over to Android Studio. Okay. There we go. We're also starting up the server-side component. Great. So we're now over into the Android Studio. So we need to build our mobile app. And then we need to start up our Android device. Now, this particular process does take a little bit longer. So we're going to pivot over back to ebankIT Studio for a moment and talk a little bit about that developer experience and AI. So the first thing we're going to talk about is a chatbot. Now, normally when you're talking about a chatbot in digital banking, we would be talking about your consumers, your members, and how they would interact with you as a chatbot. However, we've also been exploring how handy it would be for a developer to also have a chatbot within the ebankIT Studio experience. So in the bottom right, we have a lovely chatbot ready to assist. And this is one of those future things. So everything you've seen in this webinar up until now, the ability to create a desktop experience very, very quickly, this ability to create an Android experience really, really quickly, it's all available for you today. This particular item is something we are exploring. It's in preview, and we're really showing you where we're looking at going in the future. So just to be honest with demos, this particular feature is not complete. It's not necessarily ready, but we want to show you some of the things we are thinking about and what it might look like. So let's go ahead and open up our little Ask Studio. So here, just like normal, a chatbot, it gives you a couple particular items that you may want to ask questions about. Let's go ahead and explore what that would look like. So let's say, click on Studio X. And what would it take to, say, create a transaction? Great, it gives me a little bit of information on how I can create that transaction, but I'm not seeing what I want there. So let's go ahead and type out something in there and actually just type out something that I want to know about. Great, so you can ask very similar to what you would experience from another chatbot, but just making it very, very helpful for a developer to come in, especially a developer who perhaps is new to Studio. You've got a new staff member. They're getting used to it rather than sort of pester the more senior developer. Perhaps I can ask the robot about some of the things that I want to do. So you want chatbots also for your consumers or members, but also potentially one for your staff and developers. So again, this is going out using all those AI capabilities from the cloud and seeing what we might be able to do to improve your experience. Let's go ahead and see how we're doing on our mobile app. Is it ready yet? There we go. I was a little bit faster, I think, speaking about the chatbot than during rehearsal. There we go. So we're loading the app. This is, again, our out-of-the-box mobile app. Jose is going to log us in. We're not going to spend time today really exploring the mobile app. If you'd like to know more about the mobile app and see it in action, please do reach out to us. So playing, one of the next features we're going to be going into is language and cultures. And I know we have a bunch of Canadians on here today, and I was really excited to see that the Inuit in Canada have their language well defined and is actually in the Azure cloud. And so we couldn't just quite get all the languages to work. Really having some fun playing with one of the other languages in Canada. And if you ever wanted to have your digital banking support sort of a third language in Canada, it's very close to being possible. Kind of excited to see that First Nations language in there. We're going to see the dashboard for our mobile app. Again, highly tailorable by you. This is just a starting point, so you could craft different widgets from here. But again, not going to go into that today. We're going to go directly into Move Money and look at the new experience that we created. So here we can see we've got mortgage prepayment already showing up. Let's go ahead and click on expand. So slightly different user experience, right? So at the very top, we have our account selector. We can scroll right or left to choose from our accounts. And then we have the drop-down picker for the destination account. So click on that one. That's a little bit different from the control we had. Again, we would build out some filtering capabilities to have only mortgages show up here. Let's go ahead and pick that. We have our amount, we have our phone number, we have our email address. From here on out, the transaction looks very similar to what you've seen before. So we're going to go ahead for brevity and just skip out of this and go back over to the last few minutes of our demo. Let's go back to ebankIT Studio. So we've just got a few minutes left as our Android phone took a little bit longer than previously timed. So we're going to go really quick on the next little bit. So the first thing we're going to show you is adding a new language to the platform. And we'll do this pretty darn quick. So Jose is going to go into configurations, something we call cultures. And we're going to add a new language. And we're going to add Canadian French. So we find the international code for it. And now, if you are French Canadian or looked at any of it, you know that the comma and decimal point are different. So instead of a comma, it's really generally a space. And instead of a period, it's a comma for the decimal separator. So let's go ahead and change that. We could change date formats and all that sort of fun stuff. But let's just go ahead and add real quick our language. So if we go over here into a Visual Studio, we can see that our language is only available in English and Portuguese right now. And then if we go over to the studio and add our French, we're going to see that it's been added. So let's go ahead and add. Now we can jump over to Studio and see that all the infrastructure needed to show French is there. But if you click on it, you will see that it's empty. So now we're going to jump back over to Studio real quick. and we're going to automatically translate all of the English into French. Let's go over to AI transactions, or to the translator. So here we go into translate, and we choose the language that we want to do as the output. So we're going to do French Canadian. We're going to go translate. This is now going to send it out to the Azure cloud. We're going to do some instant translations, and it is very, very quick because we don't have a lot of translations right now. So it's already done. So now if we're looking at that French file, we can see all the French is there. Of course, this has been translated by the cloud, so it's not going to necessarily be perfect. You're still going to have someone go in, but now you have an experience where you can see it in context, and you can have someone kind of validate that the context of that language is right, and polish it from there. All within a few moments. We have now French. We could, again, have a First Nations language, all sorts of different languages around the world. To finish up today, real quick, we're going to go back over to ebankIT Studio. We're going to go to AI transactions. So we've seen how we were able to create a transaction in just 20 minutes or so. We were able to see that default transaction. But could we make it any better? This is an item that is experimental. It's the last two AI items are we've gotten a lot further along. And to be honest to everyone today, this is something that is really more of a development experiment on our part more than anything. So we're really interested to hear back on whether this is where you would like us to go. But what this is going to do is it's going to take our work item from Azure DevOps, and we're going to type in that Azure DevOps item. And inside Azure DevOps, our BA, our business, has defined what they want that transaction to be. They've defined all the fields that they want it to be. And so we're going to suck that in all automatically. Let's click on next. So it's going out to Azure DevOps, reading it, parsing what fields you want, what, are they numeric? Are they a currency? And they're going to automatically create the definition for that user experience and that transaction for us. So here it's picked up. This wasn't the exact same transaction. This is a different transaction. So it's got description, but it's read all of that. And we can now go ahead and generate the transaction. So we're able to reduce down the experience even further. So knowing that we've got just a little bit of time left, I'm going to go ahead and just recap us back in PowerPoint. So let's get to the end real quick here. So hopefully what you've seen today is a very easily way to craft new experiences on our platform. That first desktop transaction, we had it in 20 minutes. Yes, there's a little bit more work we could do. We could spend hours on that transaction if we wanted to, or we could get it to production within a very short amount of time. You've seen a demo around our ability to use a low-code tool for you to create those experiences quickly. We've seen that same experience being done natively on the mobile platform. So you have an amazing native experience that you're giving your consumers or members. And you've seen some of the ways that we're going to introduce artificial intelligence, how we could enhance that developer experience. And yeah, really appreciate your time today. Here's my email address, dan.killey@ebankit.com. You can also reach out to us at ebankit.com and click on the Contact Us button. And to keep us honest on the time, we will finish right now. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time today. Cheers.